Billy Joe Saunders retains his WBO World Middleweight title with a 12-round unanimous decision over David Lemieux. If you wanted a perfect example of what a fighter getting schooled looks like, then this fight right here is Exhibit A. Because Billy Joe Saunders on my card and on the HBO card didn't lose a single round. And it wasn't just a case of Billy Joe running, as some people call it. No, Billy Joe was actually beating up David Lemieux. He wasn't in there fearful of the guy's punching power. He was just using strategy and movement to exploit and exacerbate David Lemieux's shortcomings. Billy Joe boxed almost the perfect fight. A very, very good display of hitting and moving and punishing the opponent. Excellent performance by Billy Joe Saunders. Most people who I saw in the comment section, from what I can remember anyway, in the comment section of my preview videos, they were picking Billy Joe. I picked Billy Joe to win. The moment this fight was made, I thought Billy Joe should win this fight. He's technically the much better boxer. David Lemieux's got poor balance. He's going to struggle with Billy Joe's movement. Billy Joe is sharp. He'll be able to exploit the things that Lemieux does and, make him miss, make him pay. But expectations and perceptions are everything when it comes to the fans. Prior to this fight, very few people, or relatively few people, were giving Billy Joe much hope of beating a Canelo or a Triple G, especially a Triple G. But after this fight, it seems like a huge number of people have done a complete 180 on Billy Joe, and whereby they thought he would get destroyed by Canelo and Triple G before this fight. Now, after seeing this performance, they're saying actually he's got a very good chance against both guys, or he even beats both guys. Why is that? It's because people had a certain perception of how they thought this Saunders-Lemieux fight would go. They had certain expectations. And because Billy Joe vastly exceeded their expectations, it's turned their whole world upside down. For me personally, my view on Billy Joe hasn't changed because this performance didn't shock me. I expected Billy Joe to outbox Lemieux. I didn't really see how Lemieux was going to win this fight other than landing some wild haymaker from nowhere if Billy Joe got reckless. I didn't see it. I saw Billy Joe winning the fight comfortably the way he did. Maybe not winning every round, because he did end up winning every round on my card, but I thought he'd win it comfortably. David Lemieux has just got so many technical issues with him that have always been there. It's not something new that I'm only pointing out now. Go look at my old videos on David Lemieux. I'm saying the same thing. His feet especially, he's not good at cutting off the ring. His balance is very poor. He's flat-footed. He don't get in the balls of his feet. He don't bend his knees enough while getting on the balls of his feet. There's a certain technique to footwork that you need to have to be able to cut the ring off against a fleet-footed opponent. And David Lemieux is just too much of a planted pot, And I saw somewhere some people saying Lemieux actually is quite skilled and he's good at cutting off the ring. No, he's not. Show me the fight where Lemieux was good at cutting off the ring. He's never been good at cutting off the ring. And Billy Joe was turning him all night. It was a matador and a bull type situation where Billy Joe was spinning off to his right. Lemieux just couldn't touch him. He'd throw a couple shots, spin off, and he'd be behind David Lemieux before Lemieux even realized where Billy Joe was or what was going on. So excellent boxing from Saunders, but it was the limited Lemieux that I expected. So again, my perception of Billy Joe hasn't really changed. Was it the best I've seen Billy Joe box? Yes, it was. And I really do put that down to him joining Dominic Ingle at the Winker Bank Gym in Sheffield. That was the best move Billy Joe's ever made in his career. Because what Dominic Ingle has given him, above all else, is the fitness levels. You see, this is what Billy Joe lacked earlier on in his career. He had the boxing skills, he had all that kind of stuff, but he would fade down the stretch because his fitness wasn't there. Dominic Ingle gets his fighters into tremendous physical condition. You just look at Kell Brook, for example, even Kid Galahad. These are guys who lived the life. Billy Joe is now in with them, and he's also living the life, and it's paying dividends because that missing piece of Billy Joe's game is now in place. He has the professional, elite level fitness now. So best move he ever made was going to Dominic Ingle. And what else really can be said about the performance? Dominic Ingle did his job in the corner. Billy Joe did his job in the ring. You know, one thing about the showboating, I don't even know why people bring the showboating up as if it was a problem. It was minimal. And personally, I like showboating. It's showmanship. I like it. I was a fan of Muhammad Ali. You know, Prince Nassim. I like showboating. So Billy Joe doing a bit of showboating, I don't see the problem. It's not like Lemieux was out cold on the canvas requiring oxygen and Billy Joe was showboating. I can understand why some people might find that distasteful because you don't know whether the opponent is seriously hurt or not. In terms of, you know, whether they got some kind of, God forbid, brain injury. It wasn't a case of that. Lemieux was on his feet. Billy Joe was doing a little bit of showboating. What's the flipping problem? I don't know. I don't know what kind of society we're living in now where something like that is seen as an issue. I mean, he's punching the guy in the face. What's more offensive, him showboating or punching the guy in the face? This is a violent sport at the end of the day. So a bit of showboating, it is what it is, man. You know, I like it personally. Same like when Tyson Fury fought Vladimir Klitschko, putting his hands behind his back and showboating. I like it. It's part of the not only showmanship, but gamesmanship. It's the psychological battle that's going on in the ring. So, yeah, great performance by Billy Joe. How would he do against Triple G and Golovkin? Sorry, against Canelo and Golovkin. I've always felt he'd do better against Canelo than he would against Golovkin. Golovkin is much better at cutting off the ring. Golovkin wouldn't allow Billy Joe to box the kind of fight he boxed against David Lemieux. Billy Joe's obviously going to try, but Golovkin is so much better at cutting off the ring. His footwork is so much better. He's taller than Lemieux. He's got a better jab than Lemieux. He picks his punches better. Strategically, he's better. So I'm not saying that it would be a one-sided fight at all, but I do think that Billy Joe would have his work cut out, to say the least, against a Triple G. You know, I think it would be a very, very tough fight for him. Triple G has faster feet than Lemieux and doesn't waste the punches Lemieux wastes. He's got much better balance than Lemieux. That's the crucial thing with Triple G. Triple G has got excellent balance. He is, in my view, the best fighter in boxing at the moment at cutting off the ring and in punching once he gets you into position. He's very, very good at that. So it'll be an excellent fight. I'd like to see it. But as Tyson Fury has also said, yes, Billy Joe can give Triple G problems, but Triple G is no David Lemieux. Don't get that confused for a second. He's technically way better, better footwork, better hands, etc., etc. So, yeah, what else is there to say? An excellent performance by Billy Joe, but it hasn't changed my perception of him. My perception of him was the same. Maybe it changed yours. Maybe you were one of these people who picked Lemieux or expected it to be a much tougher fight than it was. And in that case, maybe your perception of Billy Joe has changed. Boxing fans are reactionary. You know, before the fight, Billy Joe gets destroyed by Canelo and Golovkin. After the fight, Billy Joe beats Canelo and Golovkin. You know, we've seen Billy Joe box similar to this for long stretches of fights before, but he just fades towards the end of fights. I was impressed by the way he boxed against Willie Monroe. I remember after the fight saying his stamina appears to have improved against Willie Monroe. I know Monroe didn't really push him, but still, Billy Joe seemed full of energy towards the end of the Monroe fight. I noticed that, and I think I mentioned it in my post-fight video. But other people were saying, oh, Billy Joe didn't look good. And I don't, what does not look good mean? What do you mean he didn't look good? How? He wasn't blowing at the end of that fight. I don't get it. Is he supposed to knock Willie Monroe out? I mean, Billy Joe's a boxer. You know, he's a make and miss, make and pay kind of guy. He's not a seek and destroy kind of guy. He's won loads of fights on points. So I thought he was impressive against Willie Monroe. I said at the time in my post-fight video, his energy levels and his stamina seemed very good against Monroe. And that same fitness has continued here. So good performance. And he's up there. I'd say he must be top 4 or 5 in the middleweight division at the moment. If the top guys are Triple G, Canelo, and Danny Jacobs, you got to put Billy Joe right after those guys. And he has to prove that he's better than those guys. If he is, he might be, okay? But he has to prove it. He's been called out by Danny Jacobs on several occasions now. Jacobs just called him out after this fight. Unlikely that Billy Joe will fight Jacobs. He did fight Lemieux. Lemieux was his mandatory, which again, that was a mistake I made before the fight. I didn't realize Lemieux was actually his mandatory. Went over to Canada, beat the guy in his backyard. Excellent. Defeated his mandatory. That's out of the way. Would he take on Danny Jacobs as a voluntary? Very unlikely. What does he gain fighting Danny Jacobs as a voluntary? Unless there's pressure maybe from HBO to make that fight, because Danny Jacobs is a HBO fighter. But then again, there's an issue with the promotional situation, because you've got Billy Joe who fights with Frank Warren. He's promoted by Warren. And then you've got Danny Jacobs who's promoted by Eddie Hearn. So would they really be able to get it together? Again, I think HBO probably will inquire about that fight. Danny Jacobs versus Billy Joe Saunders. I think they like that. But I don't know, the promotional issues, and also from Billy Joe's point of view and Frank Warren's point of view, surely they want to get Billy Joe in with the winner of the Canelo Golovkin rematch if it happens. They want to get him in with that guy first before putting him in with a Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs has no belt. Okay, he's a relatively big name. I guess he sells a decent amount of tickets in Brooklyn and whatnot. But is it a big enough fight financially to make it worth the risk of Billy Joe going in with Danny Jacobs? Because Danny Jacobs is an elite fighter. Forget about the David Lemieux of this world. Jacobs is on a much higher level, way more skilled, physically bigger, faster, better balance, just way more talented and technically good than a David Lemieux. And the same goes for Golovkin and Canelo. But yeah, Jacobs, I'll be surprised if Billy Joe versus Danny Jacobs happens before Billy Joe's had a crack at Lemieux, at Golovkin or Canelo. If Saunders does take on Danny Jacobs, then there can be no praises high enough for Billy Joe Saunders as a champion, taking on somebody in Jacobs who nobody else wants to fight. Who the hell's calling out Danny Jacobs? Nobody wants to fight Jacobs. You know, he's the president of the Who Needs Him club at this point in the middleweight division. So if Billy Joe takes him on, no praises can be high enough for Billy Joe if he does that. So yeah, anyway people, let me know how you felt about Billy Joe Saunders' performance. Was your perception of him changed? Did you expect a much tougher fight? Did you pick Lemieux? Or were you one of the many people, like me and many others, who thought that Billy Joe was going to win the fight fairly comfortably? As long as there was no hometown cooking or anything like that, he was going to win the fight fairly comfortable. Were you on that side of the fence, or were you on the other side of the fence, and have you had your perception changed? Also, who would you like to see Billy Joe Saunders fight next? Danny Jacobs? Maybe you'd like to see him wait out for the winner of Golovkin Canelo. How do you think he would do against Canelo or Golovkin? Maybe one of you guys thinks he should take on Spike O'Sullivan in a voluntary defense. O'Sullivan was on the undercard. They have to be angling maybe to get Sullivan up there in the rankings. He managed to pick up a good knockout win. So interesting to see where he'll be at in the WBO. Let me know what you think in the comment section, people. It's Hatman, I'm out.